Somebody just died. And the others did not walk away. They dug. They lowered the body down into the ground. They packed the cold soil back over it with their bare hands. Then they stood there, quiet, over a hole in the earth. You have seen a version of this. Everyone you love will take part in one someday. But nobody sold tickets. There was no funeral home, no flowers ordered online, no black suit waiting on a hanger in a closet. At some point, someone stood over a dead body and decided it mattered. This person should not be left for animals. Nobody knows who went first. Nobody knows the day. So when did humans start having funerals? The answer runs a lot deeper than you think. Somewhere, sometime, someone did it first. The story of funerals, the first grave. Deep in northern Spain, there is a cave. Inside the cave, there is a pit. And the pit sits at the bottom of a stone shaft that drops straight down about 13 meters, roughly the height of a 4-story building. The place has a name, Cima de los Huesos. It means the pit of bones, and it earns that name down in the cold and the dark. Archaeologists found the remains of at least 28 individuals, not animals, people, an older cousin of your own species, stacked together in one deep hole in the rock. Here is what stops the room cold. Bodies do not fall down a narrow shaft by accident 28 separate times and land in the same place. Water did not wash them there. Predators did not drag them down. The simplest explanation is the strangest one. Someone brought them. Someone carried the dead to the edge and let them down on purpose into a place set aside. That was around 430,000 years ago. Sit with that number for a second. 430,000 years. This is long before farming, long before cities, before writing, before religion as anyone today would know it, before your own species had even finished becoming itself. These were not modern people, but they did a very modern thing. They gathered their dead in one place. And they kept coming back. And there was one more object down in that pit. A single stone tool. A hand axe. Shaped from pink and cream quartzite. A stone that had to be carried in from somewhere else. The archaeologists gave it a nickname. They call it Excalibur. The axe is beautiful, symmetrical, carefully worked, the kind of thing that takes real skill and patience to make. But here is the detail that snags you. It was never used, no wear along the edges, no little chips from cutting or scraping or butchering. Every other tool from that world carries the scratches of a hard life. This one is clean. So why shape a perfect blade and then never once put it to work? One idea keeps returning. It was never meant to be a tool at all. It was meant to be a gift for the dead. A single pink stone in a Spanish cave may be the oldest funeral offering ever found on Earth. Now, time for honesty. Not everyone agrees. Some researchers think the pit was just a natural trap, that the bodies arrived through some slow accident of water and gravity over thousands of years. Burial is a heavy word, and careful scientists do not hand it out for free. But almost everyone agrees on something quieter and stranger. Human dead collected in one deep place, over and over, across a very long stretch of time. That is not nothing. That is the first faint signal, the first hint that death had started to mean something to the living. But that is not the weird part. The for religion. Here is what most people picture when they imagine the first funerals. A temple. A priest. A crowd in robes. A body wrapped in clean linen. Solemn words spoken up to a god. Funerals arrived with civilization, they assume. Bundled in with farming and cities and holy books. Flip that picture over. The evidence points the other way. The care for the dead came first. The grand temples came tens of thousands of years later. Long before anyone raised an altar, humans were already doing something with their dead beyond just walking away. And it gets stranger. For a long time, people assumed you needed a big modern brain to bother. That burial was proof of higher thought, a badge reserved for clever creatures like you. Then came a cave in South Africa called Rising Star. Deep inside, down a chute impossibly tight and dark. so narrow that only small, thin people can squeeze through it. Researchers found the bones of a different human. They call it Homo naledi. It stood about the height of a child. Its brain was tiny, a third of yours. The team argues Homo naledi carried its dead deep into that cave system, through total darkness, through gaps barely wide enough for a body to pass, and left them there on purpose. Maybe even tucked into shallow pits scooped from the cave floor. Picture that, a brain the size of an orange, already doing something you would recognize, handling its dead with intent, not eating them, not leaving them where they fell. Now, the honesty rule again. This claim is fought over hard, and it is nowhere near settled. Plenty of scientists say the bones could have washed in, or fallen in, or been dragged by water. They say a real burial needs a real dug pit, and that the proof simply is not there yet. But even the doubters agree the situation is odd. A pile of bones from one species, deep in a cave. In a spot very hard to reach by any accident. Something put them there. The fight is only about what? Strip it down and you land on a simple, uncomfortable idea. Caring for the dead may not mean being smart. Not modern, not holy. It may be far older and far deeper. Closer to instinct than to invention. The urge to not leave a body behind may be one of the oldest human feelings there is. Older than language. Older than fire pits and painted walls. A quiet pull with nobody there to teach it. But knowing that raises a harder question. What did it actually look like? Into the pit. So picture it. Not a chapel. Not soft organ music. Try the real thing. The ground is cold. Someone in the group has died, and the body has been lying nearby long enough that the smell has turned. Flies have found it. The others know they must act, because they have seen what happens when they do not. They have seen the scavengers come in the night, so they choose a spot back where the light goes brown. Maybe in a cave where the air stays cool. Maybe a hollow scraped into the earth. Then they start to dig. Digging without metal is slow, brutal work. Sticks, flat stones, bare hands clawing at packed dirt and rock. Fingers split and bleed. It takes hours. Then they lift the body. This part is quiet beyond explanation. People who knew this person, who ate and slept beside them, carry their weight one last time. Here is a detail that shows up across the oldest graves. The body is not dropped in flat. It is often curled up, knees drawn toward the chest, like someone asleep. Placed. Arranged. Somebody took the time to fold a dead person into the shape of rest. And it was not only the strong. One famous ancient grave holds an old man who had lost nearly all his teeth, his spine bent with arthritis. He could barely have fed himself. Someone kept him alive for years while he was helpless. And when he died, they did not toss him aside. They laid him in a shaped pit at a cave mouth. He was cared for in life and cared for in death. But not everyone is a natural at this. Somewhere off to the side, one figure hacks away at solid rock, sweating, going absolutely nowhere. Everyone else has moved to softer ground. Grief is universal. Competence is not. Then come the extras. In many graves, the dead were sprinkled with red. A powder ground from iron-rich rock. The color of dried blood. It is called ochre. It stains bone a deep rust that can last for tens of thousands of years. Nobody left an instruction manual. But that same red shows up on the dead across whole continents. Among people who never met and never possibly could have. Think about the senses in that moment. The gritty red dust caking the hands, the cold packed soil under bare knees, the scrape of stone on stone, the low quiet of people who lack the words yet clearly have the feeling. Children would have watched all of this. This is how it passed down. Not from a book, but from standing at a grave and seeing the grown-ups. And one day, doing it yourself. When it was finished, they covered the body and pressed the earth down flat. Then the hardest part of any funeral, ancient or modern, they had to turn around and keep on living. That is the piece that never changed. Not the tools, not the words, not the beliefs. Just that final turn. back toward the world of the living, carrying a fresh hole where a person was. Wait till you see what happened next. The weird part. This is where the story stops being tidy. Start with the flowers. In a cave in the mountains of Iraq, called Shanidar, a Neanderthal was found lying in the earth surrounded by dense clumps of ancient pollen. Pollen from yarrow, from cornflowers, from thistle, and hyacinth. For decades, this was a tender story, one of the most touching in all of human history. A caveman laid to rest on a bed of wildflowers. 60,000 years ago. The flower burial. Then came the twist. Newer researchers looked again, and they found a suspect. Bees. A type of solitary bee that burrows into the ground and stuffs nests with pollen. The flowers may not have been a bouquet. Just the leftovers of insects digging where a body happened to lie. So did the Neanderthals really lay flowers for their dead? Or not? The true answer: nobody knows. And a good mystery does not get weaker when you admit that. It gets better. Fact 2. Some of the most elaborate burials ever found are also the oldest, and they are staggeringly rich. At a site in Russia called Sunghir, 34,000 years ago, 2 children were buried side by side, laid head to head, and they did not send them off empty-handed. The children were covered in beads. More than 10,000 beads, each one carved by hand from solid mammoth ivory. Now do the math. Each bead took roughly an hour to make. 10,000 beads is about 10,000 hours of labor. That is years of somebody's life, stitched onto the clothing of 2 dead children. There were also spears of straightened mammoth tusk, hundreds of pierced fox teeth, small carved animals. A funeral so expensive it would flatten most people alive today. For 2 kids in the last ice age. Fact 3. And this one lands quiet. The richest send-offs did not always go to the strongest. They went to people with visible differences and disabilities who needed constant help just to survive. The ones who needed the most care in life sometimes got the most care in death. Fact 4. That red ochre keeps showing up on graves in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, across whole oceans, and tens of thousands of years. Nobody voted on it. The same instinct, reaching for the same red. And there is a 5th thread, stranger than the rest. Not every group buried the dead and let them go. Some kept them close. Later peoples cleaned the skulls of relatives and kept them in the home. The face plastered smooth, set on a shelf like a photograph. The line between letting go and holding on is blurry. What counts as a proper goodbye has never once been a single thing. Put it all together. Long before shared religion, before trade routes, before a single written word, humans were scattered across the planet, independently deciding that the dead deserved color and effort and treasure. And this is where it gets strange. Across the world. So how did a curled-up body in a cold pit turn into everything that came after it? The short answer is that it never really stopped changing. Follow it forward through time. The oldest care for the dead sits in just a handful of caves: Spain, South Africa. Then the instinct seems to be almost everywhere at once. A burial in Israel around 100,000 years ago. A small child laid gently in the ground in Kenya around 78,000 years ago, curled on their side, the head resting as though on a pillow. The oldest known burial in all of Africa, and it belonged to a toddler. Then the practices start to branch and split. Burial was only ever one option. As groups spread into every climate on Earth, they invented dozens of ways to send the dead off. Some began to burn their dead. The oldest known cremation reaches back many thousands of years, a deliberate fire built to turn a body into ash and bone. Others did almost the opposite. They raised the dead up high, on platforms and hilltops, and let the open sky and the birds do the work. Why did it keep spreading and never fade out? There are a few honest guesses. A dead body is a genuine danger, a source of sickness, and getting it away from the living is practical. But that does not explain the beads, or the ochre, or the flowers, real or imagined. Somewhere the practical and the emotional fused. Getting rid of a hazard became honoring a person. And once a group believed the dead went somewhere, still watching or waiting, the act gained a lasting weight. As farming arrived and people stopped wandering, something new became possible. A permanent place for the dead. Stay in one valley for 100 generations, and you can bury grandparents where grandchildren will stand. The graveyard was born, not from religion first, but from staying still, and from there it truly exploded. Tombs, burial mounds, pyramids that swallowed entire lifetimes of labor. Bodies dried, wrapped, preserved against time. Ships loaded with treasure and set on fire. Everyone is the same root instinct from that Spanish pit, grown wild in 1,000 directions. The impulse underneath stayed the same. The dead matter. Do something. Only the something kept multiplying. Them versus you, so line it up. Them. In the cold and the dark, 400,000 years ago. You, right now, reading this on a glowing screen in a warm room. Remember how this started. No funeral home, no flowers ordered online, no black suit hanging in the closet. It is easy to feel the distance in that list, like they were primitive, and you are civilized. Now look closer. You are doing the exact same things they did. You have just added a receipt. They sprinkled red ochre over the body. You order lilies and roses and lay them across a coffin. Same move. Cover the dead in something beautiful and bright. You just pay for delivery. They spent 10,000 hours carving ivory beads for 2 children. You spend thousands on a polished casket, a carved headstone, a slab of granite built to outlast everyone who will ever read it. Same move. Pour your effort and your wealth into the ground after someone you love. They curled the body into the gentle shape of sleep. You say the words laid to rest. You dress the dead in their finest clothes and comb their hair as if they are only napping. Same move. Make death look soft. They carried their dead deep into a cave apart from daily life. You drive your dead to a fenced green field on the edge of town apart from daily life, with a gate and a name carved over it. Same move. Even the food shows up. Most people today gather after a funeral and eat together. A wake, a shared meal, casseroles. Ancient sites show the very same thing. Signs of feasting near the dead, the living pressing close. Same move. When death empties a room, humans fill it back up with each other. And the photo on the mantle, the visits to the grave, a single flower left on a birthday. They kept the plastered skulls of relatives to keep them near. You keep a framed picture and talk to it. Same move. Nobody in 400,000 years has ever been any good at letting go. Even the black suit. They may not have owned one, but they had their version, the special treatment, the break from the ordinary, the sense that this one moment is not like other moments. The suit is new. The instinct is older than you. Strip away the receipts, the flowers, the granite. You stand at the very same hole they stood at, doing the same impossible thing, trying to say goodbye to someone who cannot hear it. So, when did humans start having funerals? The honest answer is that the question is a trick. There was never a first funeral. No single day it got invented. The care just fades back into the dark. Past your species, past big brains, past religion, past language, into something more like instinct than idea. 400,000 years ago, someone carried a body into a cave and could not let it go. And that same refusal is happening in a funeral home somewhere in your own city today. No funeral home, no flowers ordered online, no black suit. They had none of it, yet did everything. The receipts changed. The feeling never did. But that raises a bigger question. If caring for the dead is older than your own species, where did it come from? What was the very first creature to look at a dead body and feel it could not walk away? That is a story for another day. If these questions keep you up at night, you already belong here. Stick around, and the next one is already on its way, waiting in the dark.